Thanks for joining. Can you guys one by one just write your name? Please write your name and your year of like which year you are in. Your year of engineering, and a little bit about your understanding on AWS. Just one line. Just say you know quite a lot. You are a beginner, or you have some experience, or you wanna know something. I just pasted this message on the chat. Just reply back, and I will collate all of that and use that for my own information. And to ensure that the content I'm delivering is effective for you all. So just do that on the chat. I posted a question and you can just reply it one by one. It's like, hi, I am Smith, or Radhika, or Ayush, and I'm a beginner in AWS, or I know a little bit about AWS. And I am in third year of my engineering and I'm doing computer science, something like that. That would be really valuable information. All right, we have 23 people who are on this call, and there are probably more joining in. So I'm going to keep admitting. And I'm showing you the week 1 agenda for this internship / bootcamp. Thank you, Abhishek. Currently, I'm in third year. That's awesome. Thank you. Good. And in any ways, while we are having this boot camp, if you're not able to hear me, or the voice is not audible, just put that message on the chat. Hi, Krish. Abhishek possess basic practical knowledge. Ayush Nayak, third year. I have worked with few services like AWS, IVS, DynamoDB, CloudFormation, EC2, and S3. That's good. Awesome. Okay. Sushant Singh, currently I'm in fourth year computer science student. I know a little bit about AWS practical knowledge. Good. Awesome. Okay. So in today's, this is our first lesson or first tutorial, you can say. And in this tutorial, I'm going to talk a little bit about the AWS and AWS free tier. And I'm going to talk about the application or the lab which we are going to be building in this next 1 to 2 hours. The intent is I will talk about the AWS and the application which we're going to build. And I'm going to show you how to get free for AWS. I'm also going to show you how to run that lab. And in that whole session, we will run that lab and we will explain what those the elements of what we are building and how it is related to AWS and you all. And then my expectation is that you will pay attention and understand the labs, and then you are going to build it yourself. And the next time when we will meet, I will ask you if you have achieved things on your AWS accounts. The whole intent is to make sure that you are aware of how to get into AWS, how to build things in AWS, and take advantage of what services to be offered here. Awesome. Okay, so you guys can keep putting your introduction in the chat as we move along, and just let me know what you think, and if you have any questions, just keep coming. So let's talk about AWS. So as I mentioned last time when we met, um, um, the intent for you all to know AWS is to make sure you understand how practically AWS is used in companies and organizations where you are intended to get a job once you are done with your college. Um, the job or your professional career might not be around AWS. It might be around building applications. It might be around anything related to computers or programming or applications which are consumed commercially. When I say commercially, um, it is basically, you learn things in college, in labs, in boot camps, but can you imagine what is the practical use of those things and how these things are going to generate money and run businesses and pay you um, the salaries which you deserve? um, so basically what happens is when you build an application in any form, um, you can imagine any application. Imagine what is happening at Airbnb. You know, Airbnb can be an application which is utilized, consumed by millions of consumers. This is just one application I'm taking example. You can take any example. You can take example of Meta, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or any banking application, or any application which is which can be in any domain. Take any business. Every business today is almost digital. For anything you go, you want to order some food, you want to go to your mobile phone, and you are gonna ordering that through Zomato, through Uber Eats, through through any other app. You want to go from one place to another, you order Uber. So all these applications are running somewhere, right? Where are they running? They are serving thousands and thousands and millions of customers, and all those customers are hitting these applications and getting responses back in real time, in a very quick manner. So what is happening here is, when you build an application, imagine you are thinking and working on an architecture for Uber app. You might have, if you are students of DSA or uh, data structures, and you are going for some interviews after your college, you might be thinking about going through coding interviews and architectural interviews. And there are some very basic examples like Uber or Netflix or Facebook, like people can say design that, and in that process you lay down all the component which are used in these applications. But have you ever imagined when these applications are really in production? When I say production, production is something when your application is consumed by real live users. That's when the enterprises say we are running an application in production. And what does that mean? How do you run an application in production? First of all, understand what is application. The application is like thousands and thousands of servers attached with some kind of storage, some kind of databases, front ended by some load balancers, And on that load balancers, there are multiple tools and security products which are attached to, which are protecting this application. When you are in the college, the application is just a program on the computer, like you wrote something in Java, or you wrote something in Spring Boot, and you are hosting them on some kind of application server, and you are consuming that information. But when you take that to millions of customers in the world and you put it in internet, what happens is this one server will change to thousands, and those 1,000 servers are automatically auto scaled up and down based on your traffic. Imagine you are it's a Diwali night, and Amazon put up in promotion saying, today is the discount on every product and it's going to be like 30%. Okay, thank you. So what happens in that case is, once your demand goes up on Diwali day, there will be like a lot of users coming in and buying things on Amazon. The demand goes up. What will happen now? How will you add more servers to fulfill that demand? In real world, these servers are added automatically to fulfill the demand of consumers. But what happens when your demand is over, like Diwali is over? Now you don't need these thousands of servers, because if you are having these thousands of servers who are working on your applications, it's gonna cost you as a business. So what happens is, once Diwali goes away and the sales go away, all the infrastructure and resources which are spin up will go down to save your cost. All of that things happens in the background and happens seamlessly. Your business or your applications won't even be able, won't even aware what is happening. It's all automatic based on the traffic, based on the users, based on the consumers. The servers will be added onto it and removed out of it. All of that things happens today in cloud. 10 years back, 12 years back, 15 years back, when the cloud was just coming up, these applications use data centers. And the data centers are very static. Data center is like a company or a business actually buy all their hardware, and they use that hardware or servers to serve the traffic, which means if they need to increase the capacity overnight, they can't, because they can't just buy more servers, right? Buying servers are the hard thing, and configuring them is even harder. I will mute. So the being in data center is hard. So what was the solution? The solution was cloud. The cloud is basically a place where you can provision your infrastructure to support your application. And that infrastructure is the servers, the databases, the queues, the message queues, the data streaming services, the load balancers, the WAF, and much more. But for now, let's just stick to one thing. Let's stick to a server. That you need a Linux server to host your application. And let's step back a little bit. Instead of boiling the ocean, let's only think about one use case. And that use case is, you as an engineer, as a computer science engineer, developed an application. And that application is basically imagine you developed your own personal page in HTML. You're all like college in the college and you are going through your engineering. Now imagine you need to create a personal web page of your own where you can put your portfolio, saying who you are, your nice picture, and some of your projects which you are doing. Like for example, this internship, you can put up in portfolio saying, "Oh, I did an internship. In that internship, we studied AWS for 90 hours, and we created a lab which was this much useful." Just for your own sake, and it's not only for your own sake. You develop that portfolio, a web page, a static web page, and then you can share that web page on your LinkedIn or on your or just share it with anyone. In your resume, you can write, "This is my portfolio." That would be a great thing for you to do, to create your own portfolio, which is a nice HTML website saying who you are, what you do, and what projects you did in your engineering, and what are your interests, so that your employers and your friends and people who you know can be more aware of you. So for this first lab, a personal portfolio would be a great application to start with. All of us, 26 people here, 28 people here, we want to create a HTML page which showcase your own skills and your experience in a very nice manner. And you want that application to be available over internet. And you can, at the end, you will have a IP address and URL which you can share with anyone. This is our objective for the first lab. And why we are doing it? Because we want to demonstrate how to take a static application and put that on AWS and make it available to the whole world. That would be our introduction to AWS. And then thinking how now this application can scale to thousands and millions of users if your portfolio become that big. Am I making sense? Are you guys following me? Okay, I'm gonna admit Bhavya, and I want you to write down in the chat if you are understanding and following me. I got 2 likes, which is great. That's good. Thank you, Yash. Okay, so we are going to make a personal portfolio, and we are going to host that portfolio in AWS, and we will make it available to the world. That is our first application. It's a very static application. It will introduce you to AWS, its free tier, its basic EC2 service, and some more concepts around networking and security groups. That would be our start. Awesome. I'm going to admit Vishwa. Right. So to start all of that, instead of me going into a lot of theory about what is what and what is what not, I would go into this lab. And while we are doing this lab, I will explain you how all these concepts are related to each other and how they are going to be mapped with industry and real enterprises or places where this work is going on, and how you can map your mindset with um, that goal so that you can make sense out of it. So let's get started. And um, there is a AWS free tier, which I'm gonna show you here. Uh, just search for if let me share screen. Okay, so I am sharing my screen and I am doing admit. My chat is here. If you have any problem looking at my screen, just let me know. But right now I am at the free cloud computing service tier. If you see, I'm showing something like AWS free tier, and what it means. AWS free tier is basically a if you sign up for that, you get certain services and you can use them free of cost. But there is always a limitation. So for example, if you see here, I'm showing you Amazon EC2, which is free for 750 hours per month. you know what does that mean? It means that you can get 750 hours per month of Linux T2 micro or T3 micro instance, dependent on region, under this. For us as a learners, this is good enough. You are okay with 750 hours of um, EC2 time. So I want you to do that and get that EC2 instance. I'll show you in a second how to get that. So 750 hours of EC2, and then you will also get Amazon S3 5 GB of standard storage for 12 months free of cost. It's like, you get a space and drive. Similarly, you will get Amazon S3 5 GB of standard storage. Then you have RDS, again, 750 hours. If you say why 750 hours? So 750 hours is basically, if you divide 30 days or 31 days in hours, it's going to be roughly 750 hours, which means all every second of 31 days is covered. If you have that server and you left it, you are not going to be charged for it. Similarly, you get DynamoDB 25 gigs of storage, SageMaker 2 months, Amazon Lambda 1 million calls. For now, let's forget about every other service and only think about EC2. So we get 750 hours of EC2 instance per month. So you get AWS free tier. Now, let me show you how to get it. Um, I'm going to share a video which I recorded today. So here is what happens when I go into free tier. What I'm doing here is I am signing up for it. You need a root user email address. You need an email address to get that account. So I am using my email address, and I gave the name. Let get back a little bit. So if you see here, when you sign up for AWS, you need to do two things. One, you need to give the root email address. I have given AWS admin at awssecuritylabs.com because that's my email ID and my username. I'm going to use that email ID to create my AWS free tier account. Just make sure that this email ID is, you know about it and you can access it, because it's very important. Once you get this email ID, this becomes your everything. Okay. So, and then next, there is something called AWS account name. So, AWS account name is, you can give anything. It's important. What I did is I gave management account, because I feel like I'm going to use this account to spin up organizations, and this will be my main base account. So I gave the name as management account. You can give the same thing, or as you prefer, but just know that you will know it, you remember it, put it somewhere. So once I gave this, there will be a verification going into my email. There will be a code which goes into my email, and you will put that verification code to verify that email address. This is what I did. Uh, I got the email, and then this was verification code. I gave the verification code, uh, and then you need to set the password. You can set whatever password you want. I set based on my preferences. AWS has problem with that password of mine, so I gave another one. Awesome. Then you will have to give your full name, your address, and your phone number. Then you need to give a credit card details. Just remember that these you have to give a credit card number. Um, but you don't have to worry about it, because we are using the free tier, so your credit card won't be charged. Um, but remember, you are in a free tier with limits. You have utilization limits, which means if you use more than that, you will start getting charged. So imagine you have 750 hours of EC2, and what happens after your imagine you have 750 hours for an EC2, and you by mistake or intuitively or um, with your own conscious wish, you want one more EC2 instance. You want two application uh, hosted on different instances, or you want to just play around. You need more compute. But if you spin one more EC2 instance and both of them are running for a whole month, what will happen is you will be charged, and your credit card will be charged for that month. Now, what can you do for that? I'll show you in a minute. What we will do We still want no money charged on our credit cards, obviously, because we are just learning. We don't need much instances, right? You don't need so many instances if you are not in the advanced stage of creating more stuff. So what will you do in that case? So basically, we will put some alarms on our expenditures, which means we will use the Cost Explorer section of AWS, and we will put an alarm saying if any time our utilization goes beyond a $0, you will get an alert, right? We want that. We want some kind of alerts set into our AWS console so that we are not burning money. You don't want to burn money, but you still want to build, right? So basically, we created a free tier of AWS, which I just shown you. After giving the phone number, the credit card information, um, our sign up was completed, and AWS told us, congratulations, thank you for signing up with AWS. We are activating your account. You should take a few minutes and you will receive an email when this is complete. So basically, AWS will take a couple of minutes before your AWS free tier is ready to be consumed. Now, a question for all of you. I want to know, did you try getting AWS free tier in your before this session, or you are still in process? If you can write down that message on the chat, that would be great, so that I know how many of you are having AWS accounts or going to have AWS accounts. So please go ahead and write that message on the chat. That would be awesome. All right. So I have a free AWS tier account. That's awesome, Krishal. That's what we want. We want an AWS free tier account. Oh, okay. Heli also have that. That's great. Have the account. Good job, guys. And all of you all, please, I urge you to just have one more. Have one AWS free tier for yourself. If you're not doing it right now, I want you to do it as soon as this bootcamp completes. You work on getting your AWS free tier account. I'm gonna put this video once we are done on YouTube, and I will send you the link. Um, you can refer it and create your AWS account and do things which we are going to do now. So next thing we do is awesome. So Shant Kumar has an AWS free tier account. Vishal has to. Abhishek has to, and Heel has to. Good job, guys. You are you are right on the money for learning AWS and creating some things in it. So once I have the AWS account with me, what I'm gonna do is log into my AWS account and show you the AWS console. So what is console? Right. And let's get back to what is AWS again. What is AWS? AWS full form is Amazon Web Services. You know how AWS come into the picture? There is a story. AWS is basically the child of Amazon, and Amazon was basically a bookstore when it started in late 90s or early 90s. So Amazon was a bookstore, and gradually it became a retail powerhouse. While selling books, Amazon started selling almost everything. on internet, which is Amazon.com. And by 2000, early 2000s, its revenue hit probably $1 billion. Um, and it has like so many customers and, sellers and um, people who are buying and people who are basically shipping and whatnot. You know how it was all supported on the back end, the infrastructure of Amazon. So Amazon created the products which can support this kind of traffic, and that infrastructure was basically very dynamic in nature, very much like cloud, but at that time it was a private cloud of Amazon. Amazon has a track record of um, you know track record of creating businesses out of businesses. Like they started with a bookstore when they know that, when they understood, wow, we can sell books, why not sell spices? Why not sell tables and chairs? Why not sell everything on Amazon? Because you already have the business model and infrastructure for books. The same infrastructure can be utilized for anything else. So they understand that, and they extended that infrastructure to many products. But when they understood that this infrastructure is expandable, then they thought, why not use this infrastructure not only for Amazon, but for any business? Why just Amazon.com? I can run bankofamerica.com in the cloud. I can run um, chase.com in the cloud. I can run, if you see, the whole IPL is running on AWS. Netflix is running on AWS. So Amazon realized that there is an opportunity to scale this infrastructure to other businesses too, not only to Amazon.com. But to do that, they needed to develop tools or services which can basically become a bridge between the business and the organizations. So what will happen if Netflix wants to host their application on cloud? They will use the services provided by Amazon to bring their infrastructure in cloud. And those services are exposed by AWS. That's why they're called Amazon Web Services. For example, very foundational services EC2, which is like elastic cloud computing. Under that service, Amazon will bring up servers to consumers. Like you can call a service saying, oh, I need a Linux instance. Can you create me one? And AWS will give you that. So basically, AWS was created as a wrapper on top of existing Amazon processes. And these wrappers are exposed over the internet as APIs. And that was called AWS. In a very simple terms, AWS is just a bunch of, again, just a bunch of services, almost 200 of different services exposed via API endpoints. Like if you want to create an EC2 instance, there might be a service called create EC2 instance. If you want to delete an EC2 instance, there will be a service called delete EC2 instance. and you will utilize them as APIs. So to shorten this all up and give you a summary, AWS is a collection of services, and those services are exposed via web endpoints. And how will you see or manage these services? To manage or visualize those services, you need to go to the console of AWS. So we came back to console from where we started, right? We created a AWS free tier accounts. And when you create a free tier AWS accounts, how will you access it? You need to go to the console for that. Console is a web browser based application. And to log on to console, you will use your root email address, the account which you created when you created your free tier. So when you are off this bootcamp, you will be creating a AWS free tier account. And once you create free tier AWS account, then next thing you will do, you will log into console. This is your assignment number 2. First is create AWS account. Second is log on to console. So we created a AWS account, and I hope you are seeing my screen. I'm gonna show you console. And if you see here, what I'm doing here, I'm writing my root user email address. Remember, my root user email address was awsadmin@awssecuritylabs.com. This is the email address I used while configuring my free tier. So I'm going to use the same thing. And click next. Once you do that, obviously you got to put the password in. And once you are in, just look at this now for a second. This is your console. If you would be working in AWS in future, which is very, very likely that you will be, you will see this console everyday basis. And just have a look at this console. If you already have one, put some focus on that and understand some terms. If you see on the top right hand side, there is a management account. This is basically the account name, right? Imagine or recall when I created my free tier, I gave the account name as management account. That's why I'm seeing management account here. That's the number one thing which you need to keep notice of. Then the second thing which you will see is something called N Virginia on just adjacent to that. And this is basically Northern Virginia. It's if you expand that, you will see basically the regions available to you. This is a region. What is region in AWS? Basically, the region is AWS is divided. When I say AWS is divided, it's not AWS. AWS services are available in different regions. And there are many regions within AWS. These regions are created as a physical separated entity. It's like a big data center with lots of computers in it. And why there are different regions in AWS? So that your applications can be more available. When I say available, what does that mean? It means that, imagine you want the disaster recovery for your applications. For example, imagine US, you put your application US1 East instance in region, and then this region goes down. When this region goes down, what will happen? Your application will become unavailable. Like, regions can go down, there can be technical malfunctions, or natural disasters. um, it's possible the electricity city grid goes out in one region. When that happens, what happens to your application? Right? You don't want to lose the continuity. You want your consumers to be using your applications all the time. So what happens in that case is you can deploy your application in multiple regions, so that even if one region goes down, you have second region available to you. So regions are basically used to have multiple places where your applications can run. That was too much detail, but for now you can just keep in mind that there is something called region, and this region is something you should always be aware of, because not all applications um, run in same region, and not all applications are regional. Like EC2 is a regional service. You can spin EC2 in a region, but IAM is not a regional service. So for now, you can understand there is something called region, and there are some services which can run in any region or more than one region, but they need a region to run. And there are some services which don't need a region at all. They are global services. They are available in every region. IAM is that service. EC2 is not. So right now, in this console, which I'm showing, I am using US East 1 as my region. And I'm using management account as my account. And on the left-hand side, I have a console which shows you the different services available to you. If you see, there are like AWS organizations, IAM, key management, billing and cost management, EC2, RDS, secrets manager, systems manager, IAM identity center, control tower. These are just few services, but there are like 200. And there is a search bar on top of it where you can, put which service you want to get in. You can say EC2 and you will be in EC2. So now let's go to one more thing before we get into EC2. I told you that your AWS free tier comes with a limited utilization, right? And if you don't keep a tab on your spendings on AWS, eventually you will start incurring expenses on your credit card. So to make sure you don't burn money, we are going to put up alerts in AWS Console. So let's see how to put alerts now. In this console, if you see on the bottom right side, there is something called cost and usage. Just understand and keep in mind what does this do, and use this to put alerts on your AWS account. But when you go in the real world, where you have a company who hires you, and imagine they are spending like $10 million a year on AWS, it's possible. For them, cost is a very important factor. So, and cost itself is like a total all together a job itself. So if you are someone who is working on cost, and you can save 500K on yearly basis by some means, you are already, you know, taking care of 3 people's salary probably, right? So the cost and usage becomes a stream in its own. But for now, we don't have to go very deep into it. For now, we are just gonna um, be thinking about how to save our own costs on free tier account. And for that, we're gonna go into the cost and usage. Let's see how to go into the cost and usage. So there is something called billing and cost management home. If you click on billing and cost management, this is how you will see in your AWS console. This is your third assignment. First, create AWS free tier account. Second, go to the console, log into the console, explore. Third, go to billing and cost management and set up a budget. So I am into billing and cost management right now. If you see here, I'm just browsing around, checking the opportunities. Then on the right hand side, there is something called cost monitor. If you see on my screen, I'm showing cost monitor. And there is something called budget status. And it requires a setup. So basically, I'm going to go and set up this budget. I'm going to click budget setup. And when you click the budget setup, you will see that you can set up the budget of your AWS free tier by using a template. So I am selecting two things here. One, I'm using a template. And then I'm using something called zero spend budget. If you read the definition of zero spend budget, it says create a budget that notifies you once your spending exceeds $0.01. So anytime your expenditures goes beyond $0.01, you will be getting an email. For example, imagine you spin up two EC2 instances that they are consuming more than 750 hours, and anything more than 750 hours will be billed on your credit card. Once that happens, you will get an email about it. So that's your fourth thing you need to do. Once you get your AWS free tier account, you are able to log on to console. You are able to go to the billing and cost management. then you set up a zero spend budget. And that's exactly what I'm doing in this video. So once you select these two things, then you need to give the budget name. I gave the budget name as let's see what I gave. I gave free account budget. No, I'm not giving that either. I'm giving zero is the limit. Zero is the limit. And then you need to give the email recipients. Why email recipients? Because how will you, who will AWS tell if your spending goes beyond $0? So that's where you give the email address where you want to receive the email. So once you give that, then you just say create budget, and that's it. If you see my screen, I have a budget set, but there is one problem here. If you see, um, name of the budget is zero is the limit. Threshold is okay, and the budget is $1. So AWS basically set the budget as maximum as $1. Let's edit that and make it 0.1. We don't want to spend even $1. So we are going to edit that, and in that editing, edit, go down. See, there is $1. I changed it to 0.01. Actually, first I did 0.00. It will not accept 0.00. So you need to give 1 cent instead of, it doesn't accept just zero, right? So 1 cent. So anything goes beyond 1 cent, we will get the email. So that's the thing we saved. So look at this now. This is our budget which is set up. I'm gonna write something here. This is your fourth assignment. You need to take care of that. Number one is AWS free tier account. Free tier account. Number two is log on to AWS Console. Number three, AWS billing and cost management. And number four is set up a $0 limit budget. This is the four things we already figured out for today's assignment. That is your assignment, these four things, and we will add more as we go along. But this is what we did till now. People who are joining late or missed it, this is what we did till now. We talked about AWS free tier account. We created a free tier account. We logged on to AWS Console. We logged on to AWS Billing and Cost Management. And then we set up a $0 budget. You will get this video once we are done with this bootcamp, and you will refer to this video and create these things on your own for this week. That's your assignment. And I want you to, while creating that assignment, tell me or let me know if anything you have doubts about anything, or you're not able to meet or not able to do that. I want you to tell your status on WhatsApp group. Just write down in a couple of days that I will ask, where are you on this assignment? You will tell me this is where we are. Okay, so now we made the budget. Um, all right. So once you are done with making the budget, now we are sure that, um, if we create more instances and if we are spending more money, we will get the alert. So we are now a bit free to start creating something. Remember, we set out our main objective for this lab is to host a personal page for all of us. You all will be setting up a personal page showing your portfolio in AWS and make it available to internet. That's the whole assignment. And we are doing these steps one by one to reach there, right? So the next step in our journey is create an EC2 instance. The plan is we will create an EC2 instance which is Linux based. And on that EC2 instance, we will host our personal page. Before I go deep into it, how will you do it? Let me tell you first how to create an Linux instance in EC2. So for that, we will go into EC2 service. Let's go into EC2 service. So I clicked on EC2. Notice here this screen which I got. I want you to just focus on a couple of things, not the whole of this console at this point. Just see what is happening. There is something called EC2 free tier on right hand side. And if you see there, right now it says 0 EC2 free tier offers in use. So basically what it says is like my free tier, I can have more EC2 instances. I have utilization available to me. Just keep that in mind. Then go on the left hand side and see that there is a left, actually not left, it's the center, something called resources and EC2 global view. And then there is something called instances running, right? Instances running are 0. Just notice that instances running are 0, which means right now there is no instance, no EC2 instance which is running, right? So which means I have nothing in my AWS account, at least not a EC2 instance available in my account. Obviously, if there is no EC2 instance, there is no auto scaling groups either, no dedicated host, no key pairs, no security groups, instances, no load balancers. All of these things are 0. We will come to them one by one. But for this lab, for our first lab, for our first bootcamp lab, which is like hosting your personal page in AWS, we are only going to be using number 1, instances, number 2, key pairs, number 3, security groups. That's it. So you just need to know these 3 things and I'll tell you what they are. For now, let's understand what is an instance. So once you get out of this first resources tab, there is something called launch instance. In the middle section, there is something a small hand is pointing. It's a pointer. It says launch instance, like a yellow button. Um, That is where you basically launch an instance. So I want to write number 5. We are going to launch instance. This is your number 5th step. Just follow the chat where I wrote. And if you have any questions, or I'll take a pause and ask if you are following me and you are getting what I'm saying, or anything you want to say. Just acknowledge that on chat. That would be great. So once I say launch instance, this is what happens. Um, Basically, you get something like Amazon EC2 allows you to create virtual machines or instances that run on the AWS cloud. Quickly get started by following the simple steps below. So what we are doing here, we are creating a Linux machine, and we are going to be using the free tier for getting a Linux machine. So give a name to your server. I was debating what would be the name of my server, but the logic is when you go in the companies or enterprises, every instance you create will have a naming convention, right? Because you are not in isolation. You will be creating instances in dev region, prod region, test region, and there will be different kind of instances. Um, it can be, you know, it can be Windows instances, it can be Linux instances. So we will give the naming convention, which can uh, tell what kind of server this is. So let's see what I gave. It is dev Linux app server. Right? Why I give this dev Linux app server? Um, because I am imagining this Linux server which I'm creating is in my dev environment. So my first name is which environment I'm in. It's a development environment. You can also do the same if you want, or you can, if you want, you can put it as a test. You can put it as a prod, or you can put whatever you want. But make some sense out of it so that you know what this instance is. If you look at it like after 4 months from now. So the second thing I gave is my operating system. So I'm creating a Linux instance. So I gave operating system as Linux. So it's dev Linux. Then I gave app. App is what? It's my app server. There is an application which will be hosted on it. My intent is to host my personal portfolio in this server. To do that, I need an app. So this is my app server. And then the last name is server. It's a server which is going to be serving the personal page I am creating for myself. So that's what it is. It's a dev Linux um, um, app server. The next thing you need to do is you need to select an AMI. Again, understand every computer, like imagine you want to buy a computer, you want to buy a Windows laptop or a Mac laptop or whatever laptop. There is always a hardware and there is a software. There is an operating system. It can be Linux operating system. It can be Windows operating system. So you need to also tell AWS what kind of operating system you want, right? Any computer which you might have bought in your life or things like that. What do? You check what is the CPU, what is the operating system, what are the RAM, or what are the storage in this machine or in this laptop, and that's how exactly every server is configured. Similarly, we are now configuring a Linux server, and that's why we are selecting Amazon Linux image. If you see, there is something called AMI, it's called Amazon Machine Image. So in Amazon or in AWS, when you need to select a server, you select a image, and Amazon will refer to that image to spin up a new server for you. So there are different kind of images available already in Amazon, and I am using a Amazon machine image, which is called Amazon Linux 2023 AMI, and it is free tier eligible. It will give us an architecture of 64-bit x86, and the operating system is going to be the Linux installed on it. So basically, when you say that, hey, AWS, I want a Linux instance of this particular architecture, AWS will say, okay, here are some certain AMIs which you can use, or the images, and tell me which image you like or you prefer, and I'm going to create a server based on that image. That's exactly we did here. We selected an image, and based on that image, we are going to create our first EC2 Linux instance. That is your fifth assignment, not fifth assignment, but fifth task in an assignment, where you need to create an EC2 instance, and this is how you're going to do it. You're going to check this video once this bootcamp is over, and you're going to go to your free tier account and do these steps which I'm talking about. So if you see, there is something called T2 micro. Just don't go too much into details, but T2 micro is a instance type which has the configuration of one virtual CPU, 1 gigabit of memory, and the pricing of it is also written on this box, and it is a free tier eligible. So 750 hours of this EC2 is free. After that, if you see on demand Linux based pricing, it's 0.0116 USD per hour. So if you have exceeded more than 750 hours on this EC2 instance, you will be charged almost 1 cent per hour, 24 cents in a day, and probably $6-7 per month if you left this instance running beyond 750 hours. So just pay attention to this and understand that you already set up a budgeting alarm, which means anything more than 750 hours will be alerted to you, because they are going to cost money. So once you do that, there is something called keep air. Let's wait for keep air a little bit. Then, there are some default settings on network, VPC, subnet. Then there is something called security group here. And I have not changed anything. I just left everything as default. Um, and I said, allow SSH traffic from, right? So basically, when you spin up a new EC2 Linux instance, what will you do with that? You need to log into it, right? Uh, so that you can do work on it. Any Linux instance you have, you do SSH to it, right? So when you do SSH, basically, you get the secure shell, and you can execute commands in your shell. So, but how will you SSH? What is SSH? SSH is secure server shell, and it's a way to connect with your Linux instances. And every instance basically will have um, the port and the IP address to connect to, right? This is basics. Like if you have any computer on internet, and if you want to connect to it, you need an IP address and port, right? In case of Windows, if you RDP into your Windows instances, you go through an IP address and a port. Similarly, the SSH works on um, port 22, and by default, what is happening here is a security group will be created which will allow traffic from anywhere. So once you create an EC2 instance, by default, you will allow traffic from anywhere to your EC2 instance. So that's just a basic. Don't worry too much about it. I'm not gonna alter anything here. We will go to different concepts in other labs. But for now, just remember that we are creating an EC2 instance and we are allowing default things to happen. So I'm not going to change anything. I will not do anything on HTTPS or HTTP traffic for now. I'm going to say launch instance. So when you launch an instance, you will see that it will give you a notice. It says, we noticed that you don't select a key pair. If you want to be able to connect to your instance, it is recommended that you create one or select an existing one. What are we doing here? Basically, we are creating a key pair. There are two things which happens. Again, listen very carefully. When you create an EC2 instance, you will always need a way to connect to it. And to connect to an EC2 instance, you need two things. Number one is your network settings should allow the traffic coming onto this EC2 instance. For example, if you want to SSH to a Linux server, you need the 22 port open on this server so that I can communicate with it. Then only I can establish a connection. Apart from the network connectivity, you also need some way to authenticate yourself to the server, right? You need to authenticate. Otherwise, how will you tell who you are? You need credentials. Like even you, when you RDP to a Windows instance, the you give the IP address and port, and you also give the username and password. But in this case, in our case, we are going to use a key pair for authentication. We will create a key pair in AWS, And then we will use the private key from that key pair to connect with that EC2 instance. Okay, so summarizing, we are launching an instance, and to connect with that instance, we need network connectivity and we need the authentication information. And for authentication, we are creating a key pair. Let's not go very deep into what is key pair and how it is used. We will come back to it later. And if you know about SSH and you know about PKI and you know about how certificates work, then you probably are aware of how this all thing happens. But you don't have to. It's a, you will learn. For now, let's just create a key pair. Again, we need to give some name and we need to make sense out of that name. So I'm going to give the name as dev Linux key pair. Just pay a little attention. I said dev Linux key pair. My intention is to use this key pair for any Linux instance which I create. I can use the same key pair to connect with multiple. So for now, I gave dev Linux key pair and I said, let's launch my instance. It'll take a couple of minutes. And once my instance is launched, again, it'll take a couple of minutes before the instance stage go from pending to running. So I just randomly go around console a little bit. And then finally it says instance state is running. If you see, there is a green mark and running written over there. So this means my EC2 is now running. Okay. So we completed our fifth step. We created free tier account. We logged into our AWS console. We went to billing and cost management. We set up a $0 limit budget. We did launch instance, and we have our EC2 instance with us. Awesome. Next thing we want is to connect with this instance. Number 6 step is connect with this instance. That's your number 6th task. Your tasks are in chat, and I'm also going to put these tasks in and the link of this video once I have that for you guys to go over and do these steps and labs on your own. And once you do it, I want you to tell me in a couple of days where you are. What's your status on it? I'm going to ask it. So, going back to the connect part. Remember, I told you is something called key pair and SSH. That's how you connect with AWS. But AWS provides actually 4 ways to connect to an instance. Right now, um, I'm at EC2 instance. It says EC2 instance, and then there is instance summary and whatnot. In that, if you see, there is something called connect button where my pointer is pointing to. I'm going to click on that connect button. Once you see that, there is something called connect to instance come up. It shows 4 ways to connect with EC2 instance. The first one is visible. And it says, see, port 22 is open to all IP addresses, which is fine. We did that, right? We allowed IP address 0.0.0.0/0, which means any IP address in the world can connect with this EC2 instance at port 22, 2020, port 22. And then there is something called connection type. It says connect using EC2 instance connect. It is a feature given by AWS where you can connect to an EC2 instance in the browser itself using public IPv4 address. Always remember, when you are on internet, anything you put on internet is basically addressed by a public IP address. And our EC2 instance, which we created, is also having a public IP address. And if you see, there is a public IP address right underneath connect using EC2 instance. And there is something called username. It's called EC2-user. I'm not going to go deep into it. But for now, you can remember there is something called public IP address and a username. Let's explore what are other options. There is something called session manager. Let's not go into that at this point. Later on, we will talk about it. Then there is something called SSH client. I'm not going to go deep into that too. These are your assignments. Probably you should understand what is SSH client, what is session manager, and what is EC2 serial console. If you don't do that, that's fine for now. But as you move along in your journey, you will understand what are these things. For now, let's use connect using EC2 instance. Remember what we are doing. We are trying to connect with this server. Because what's the use of this server if you can't connect to it? So that was your number 6 task. Connect with this instance, which you just created in your free tier account. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to say connect using EC2 instance connect. So once I did that, what happens is the Amazon or AWS opens up a browser and connects with your Linux instance on browser itself. Now, just see what is happening here. So in the browser, I got a console, like an SSH console, SSH terminal. If you are a Linux, if you guys are into Linux, you might have noticed there is something called terminal in Mac, and you can always get an SSH client to SSH onto a Linux server. You can use your Windows server to SSH on your Linux server. Once you do that, what happens is you get a shell. So I also got a shell. In this shell, if you see, there is something called in the console, it says EC2-user at IP-172.31.18.126. Pay attention when you watch this video. Just look at it with focus. And when you are in your own AWS account, pay attention to that. It will be similar to what I'm showing here. There is something called public IP address on bottom and a private IP address. And then there is a server name, which is Dev Linux app server, which, recall I did that when we created a free tier account. So in this, this is how I connected with Linux instance. And if you see, I can run commands here. The first command I ran was pwd, which was like give you the current web directory. current directory. Then I said, who am I? It says EC2 user. That's how you know that which user is logged on to this account. So just play around. It's your any other Linux instance. You can search for any command in the Google and try that. It's your playground now. You got an EC2 instance which is Linux based, and it's available to you to play around and and build. So that is what we um, are doing with our EC2 instance, the connect part. Okay, now this is done. Next thing we will do is number 7. Connect with this instance is done. Number 7 task for you is to install an Apache web server on this Linux instance. That's your number 7 task. Why do we need a Apache web server on this Linux instance? Anyone has any hints about it? You can write the message on the chat. Any idea why we need Apache web server on our Linux instance? Remember what we are set out to do when we started this bootcamp. Our first task or first lab was to host a personal page of your own on AWS instance and make it available to the internet. So where will you host that page? Like HTML pages, we are creating an HTML page. An HTML page needs a web server, at least, so that this web server can talk to a browser. And through that browser, you can access your personal page. So remember, we want to make it available to the internet. And you can make it only available to the internet if, yes, it allows to run a secure website without too much of any trouble. Yes, that's what it's going to do. We are going to run a secure website on Apache. And our website would be an HTML page. But to deploy or host our personal page on Apache, we need Apache. So to install Apache, I have put together a couple of commands, and I'm putting this in this video. So just use them. So there is the first command is sudo su. Basically, by doing that, you elevate your credentials to root. So, and to install Apache, you need the root privileges. And the command you're going to use is yum install -y httpd. Basically, httpd is a process. It's called http daemon. Basically, Apache web server is a HTTP server, right? It allows the websites to run on HTTP or HTTPS. Either it is a plain HTTP connection, which runs on port number 80, or you can run it on SSL, and that will be port number 443. So that's what we want. And that's why it is called HTTP daemon, HTTPD, basically. When Apache runs on Linux server, you will have a process which is called HTTPD running on that server. So that's what I did. I ran this command, and by running this command, HTTPD would be installed on your Linux server, and it will be running automatically. That's what you also need to do. That was your number seven task: install HTTPD on your Linux server. Once you do it, it's very simple, just 2 commands, and it is done. Next thing we will do is, you remember, once you install an Apache server, the next thing you want to do is host your personal page. So to host your personal page, I'm going to go to var www/html, to that directory. Just remember this. And then in this directory, I'm going to create a HTML file. It is going to be called personalpage.html. You can create your HTML file in any way, right? And you can give anything there. But for me, I'm just creating a very simple page. It says personalpage.html. Once you have that, um, once you have the editor, VI editor open, I'm doing it through VI editor. You can do it in any other ways, but the whole point is you need to create a personal page.html under var www-html. And my personal page HTML is very simple. It is going to have heading 1 and a simple 1-line heading. It says an AWS enthusiasts learning zone. That's my personal page. You can be creative in creating your personal page. I want you to put your pictures. I want you to make it beautiful. Add some CSS, make it a good portfolio, write something and send me the links once that is ready, which I'm going to teach you how to. So my personal page is very simple. It says AWS enthusiast learning page. Once you do that, remember, whenever you upload or deploy a new HTML file, you need to restart Apache. So this is going to be our 4th command in this process, which will say systemctl restart HTTPD. That's about it. So that was your 7th, or actually, yeah, 7th task. No, let me put another task. Number 8 task is deploy personal page.html on Apache. Refer to the video for 4 commands used in this task. That's your number 8 task. Once that is done, let's check if I can. So basically, Apache is running, the personal page is hosted. The next thing is obvious, that I want to try in my browser if I can access that page or not. Obviously, you cannot access that page because remember, we did not open the ports for HTTP. We opened the ports for SSH, the network connectivity for the server. But still, by default, EC2 instance in AWS is totally blocked for any access to internet. So you need to open the ports one by one. Here I need to open the port number 80 so that the browser can talk to Apache web server. So for doing that, this is going to be your number 9 task. Open up security group for Apache to accept connections on port 22. Oh, sorry, port 80 for HTTP communication. I wrote number 9 task, and this is how number 9 task you will do. Go to your EC2 instance console again, and find something called security groups. Security groups are in the right hand corner under network and security. Security groups are like tunnels which you can open, which will say that what person can communicate with this EC2 instance. So once I go there, I open up the security group which is meant to be, and then see there is something called, look at this security group. There is an inbound rule which is enabled. It says the SSH port 22 is allowed. We want to add port 80 now. So let's say you edit your inbound rules. When you say edit inbound rules, there will be an option to add rule, add more rule. Let's add one more rule. It says you can select from these rules. I will select HTTP, and I'll select open up HTTP port for every IP address. Once you do that, now you see there are 2 ports which are open, 80 and 2022. That would be enough for you. So once you do that, and then if I open up my page, I'm right here. Number 10 task is find the IP public IP address of your EC2 instance, and then open up your personal page.html on browser. So how do you connect with it? You need to connect with your personal page through browser. And that's how you will give the browser your IP address slash personal page.html. I wrote down that that URL. And to get the IP address, go to your EC2 console, and just on your EC2 console, you will find your IP address here. If you see my pointer, it is pointing there. If you go to your AWS console, you will find your pointer there too. So you will copy your IP address and just replace the IP address in the URL which I gave in the chat, and then slash personal page.html. So that's when you do that, you will see the personal page. My personal page was just having a heading called an AWS enthusiast learning zone. So I got my my application. So that was pretty much what we covered in this. That is what we covered in this first tutorial under this bootcamp. And there are 10 tasks for all of you. I want you to do it one by one. And I'm going to copy this chat and send it to you on WhatsApp. I'm also going to put this video on YouTube and copy it back, give the link to you so that you can refer. This was it for today's lesson, today's session. The next thing I want you to do is to perform these 10 steps this week. That's your task for this week. We will have our next session on coming Monday. And in between these days, from today to next Monday, I want you to do these 10 steps, watch this video again, and come up with your own free AWS account, the ability to log on to AWS Console, set up your alarms, set up your $0 budget, launch an EC2 instance, connect with this instance, then install Apache on this instance, then put personal page.html on this instance, then open up security groups for Apache to accept connections on port 80, and then open up your personal page in browser. I want minimum at least a simple HTML page, but if you are creative enough, be creative enough. That is your creative assignment. Creative enough to create a nice personal blog or personal portfolio page and send me the link. Send me the link so that I can check that page. That would be your amazing assignment. And if you are able to get me that page, everyone, that shows that you are learning AWS in right manner. So I'm going to stop here. And, before concluding, I'm going to ask if you have any question or anything which you want to bring it here. Please tell me. Otherwise, I'll move towards concluding this session and getting the task and videos to you for your coming 5 days. Anyone have any questions or acknowledgements? Sir, I have created an account but found an issue in step 4. What is the issue? What's the issue? Harsh?
In step 4, they are asking for a document for PAN card, driving license, passport, and voter ID, but I don't have neither of these. So what can I do regarding it? I can share the screenshot if you want.
Yeah, please share your screen. I'm going to stop sharing it. You share.
Uh, I will send a screenshot because it is the sharing is off. That's why.
Oh, okay, no problem. Let me switch off. Okay, now probably you can able to share. You can try that now, Harsh.
Yeah.
Oh,
Here I have selected ownership type individual, right? And then they are asking for me for a document, but I don't have any of these documents. So do I have to create an urgent voter ID like today or tomorrow?
okay, that's different. I don't know. I'm in US, and let me check this. Uh, when I created this account, happened. Okay. Uh, Primary purpose of this account was personal. Sign up for AWS contact information. Um, it's different. I didn't get all of that. Check.
Uh, this is for confirming my identity to sign up for an AWS account. But
Yeah.
yeah, I checked it today in the morning. I have gotten a mail that your AWS account is created, but still they want me to confirm my ID by submitting a document.
Oh, maybe they needed that in. Oh, so I created my identity was confirmed using phone number.
Okay, there isn't any option here, I think,
Yeah.
regarding that.
Do you have any driving license or something?
No, still in the process of that. That's why.
Okay. And you don't have voter ID either?
Voter ID wasn't able to create because there was some issue regarding the government site last year.
Okay.
So I can create a voter ID in this week. I
Okay,
can
then
try that.
try that. I think it's different laws basically. I don't need to do anything here. I'm US. I need to give my phone number, and the text comes
Yeah.
on my phone number. That's how I confirm my identity.
Okay, so I will try that voter ID also
Yes,
by
please
this
do
week.
that. And that's a good thing you brought up. Um, Probably other people will also get same issues, and I hope you have passport or driving license or something which you can use to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I want all of you to try all of that and bring me back with your issues and problems. Awesome. Anyone else having any other questions? Okay. If not, what you can do is you can always send the questions on WhatsApp. I am available on WhatsApp, and I will send the video link and the list of tasks to you today. Um, if no other questions, we will end this session here, and we will come back again next week and talk again. Okay, awesome then. Thank you, everyone. Um, I'll talk to you on WhatsApp following this. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dulari. Thank you, everyone.